Michael Littman. I brought in three things that I also had the dilemma, what do you bring in for RCA? So one of the items, one of our previous meetings, I brought in the first RCA's first super heterodyne. That's the AR812. It's a big, it's a portable radio. They call it portable because they put a handle on it. It weighs about 45 pounds. But one of the things I thought was really cool about that radio was that it was the Catacomb radio. So it's 6 199 tubes in it. It's all sealed, and RCA didn't want anybody to figure out what the circuit was. So internally, what they did is they put a warranty seal on the frame. And the seal is just a little solder plug that's about the size of a 632 screw. And it has RCA stamped in it. And so I took a photograph of that. So you can see it's in the center of that red circle there. You can come up and look at it later. As I said, this thing is about smaller than your fingernail. And right in the middle it says RCA. So it's got what do they call it, the meatball symbol. So I have another view of it. You can see the screw heads on that.
Can you get your machinist to help us make a punch like that? So
we can make a form, and we could make our own. So that was one item. Then another one. I don't know how rare these are, but I picked these up. This is just a set of headphones that has RCA on it. It's not too often you find RCA headphones. I believe they're made by Trim. It's because they're very similar to other Trim phones that I have. And it's about 600 ohms, and I have no idea what they were used with. I picked this up. I bought a Areola Junior, and it came with it.
With that?
With this set?
600 ohms, right?
Well,
is this a 600 ohm?
I think that's probably a 4,000 ohm output on that.
Yeah.
But I'll bet they were like recording studio, radio studio accessories and things like that.
Okay, so
I have a pair of them somewhere too.
So in any case, it's the only set like that I had seen. Most of mine are other manufacturers. And then the last item I brought is not a radio. It doesn't have a line cord, doesn't have batteries, but it's a suitcase suitcase phonograph. It's a 78 phonograph. And I picked this up at the flea market at Lambertville. And it's, let's see, so the Victor Company sold out to RCA in 1929. And I assume shortly after that, they went to some kind of electronic pickup. But for a period of time, I guess, and I'm guessing it's about 29, they just slapped the RCA logo on the Victor suitcase machine. And let's see, I think it's wound up and ready to go. I picked this up for not very much money. I don't know.
It's kind of doing okay by itself.
So that was $80 at the flea market.
That's all right.
How recent, Mike?
About a year ago.
Wow, pretty good. Yeah.
How long does the needle last? One play?
Well, you're supposed to. The word is you're supposed to change them after every play. I do it after every 5 or 6 plays. You can tell when it needs to replace the needle because it starts sounding really muddy.
Why do the needles wear out so fast?
But they're steel. So that was the whole thing. So the Edison machines, for example, the wax cylinder machines, they all use sapphire. So use some hard material. Or diamond, the diamond disc players that used a synthetic diamond.
Professor Mike, I have the same machine,
Yep.
and some of the history I know of it is they used those machines right through into World War II. They were also used as morale radios. Phonographs. You'll see a bunch of infantrymen sitting around it as a promo photo of the same machine.
With the RCA. So they kept on going along past that. That's interesting. It's surprising for a company like RCA, you'd think that they put a vacuum tube on it.
There were people who didn't have electricity. And batteries are
And if you're out in
expensive.
the field, you didn't have much electricity.
In any case, it's for those people, I also collect phonographs, and when you collect phonographs, it's basically you collect Victor machines, and you forget about everything else. So it's,
Sometimes the V, all right, is for Victrola, but a lot of times it was like the V is on the needle case, V for victory.
a V for that's interesting. Yeah, there's a V on the reproducer over here. There's a V on the reproducer, and sometimes people who make these fake phonographs will take the reproducers from these old machines and put them on an external horn machine and then try to peddle it as something real. You see that a lot. In any case, it's a fun machine. And it was in pretty good shape.
You buy needles steel needles.
Oh yeah, there's a fellow out at Golden Nugget out at Lambertville. A package of needles, 100 needles, is about $3. Yeah. So and the needles, by the way, this is kind of interesting. You can get soft needles, medium tone needles, and loud needles. And the difference between those is the diameter of the needle. So if it has a large diameter, they're very stiff, and they're very good at taking the vibrations and getting it to the reproducer. And then the soft ones have a very fine, fine steel. And then also in World War II, steel was being used for the war effort, and so you couldn't get steel needles. And so from that period, they used tungsten. They had the tungsten, which were many play needles, and also there were bamboo. So you could get bamboo needles with cutters.
Cactus, too. They made the
Cactus. Okay, now, I've not seen the cactus
And
ones.
bamboo, it depended if you were British, and that went back to the 1930s. There were people that preferred Burmese bamboo.
Yeah,
The tungsten actually goes back to like 1970s. It was thoriated tungsten for
the beginning of high end.
and that was a premium needle, as you were saying.
Were there osmium needles at some point?
Well, osmium points, yeah, but they weren't these insertable styly that I think you had.
right, Rob.
I have some ivory needles that you're supposed to be able to recondition so that you can use them multiple times.
Really, that's ivory needle. I got at one of the last phonograph shows. I picked up one of these bamboo cutters and bamboo needles, and they work okay, but they tend to wear out. We were talking about how often you had to replace them. The bamboo ones, it really is one play, and then you toss it out, and then you have to sharpen it up again.
Another reason for the bamboo or cactus needles they used to claim was, well, that I've read, is that they wore the record. They didn't wear the records as quickly as the steel needle because the needle was softer than the record.
Yeah, I'm actually a little dubious about. At least the ones that I've tried myself, they tend to dig into the shellac records more.
Plus,
Yeah.
I have heard that if you had a home recorded record that was softer than the commercially pressed record, you had to use a bamboo or a cactus needle. I don't know.
Yeah, the stuff used to come up as though they were making the record. You know, the residue from the record would twirl around.
They
Interesting.
actually used to sell needles of a special alloy, the steel. And I found a package of them somewhere. Audio point needles for playback of acetate discs.
Let's see. Comment.
One of the less common ways to use the needle nowadays was during the war, POWs would use a broken record, mold the Bakelite, use the needle as a compass point. They balance a magnetized razor blade section on it to make escape compasses with. Those needles are useful for anything.
Yeah, no, they're okay. Well, in any case, that's it on my item.